Welcome to WCWF, the Tuesday show. We are back in our regularly scheduled time slot. It's been a little bit of a hectic schedule the last few weeks.
But it's Wednesday. It's not a regular schedule show. Oh, is it Tuesday? It's Wednesday.
No, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday show.
It's Tuesday.
On
so
Tuesday.
We're in our regular spot. We don't have
That
a
is
regular
true.
co-host. I am EJ the Collector. I'm here with our producer, my mentor, my friend, Cheats. Cheats, welcome to the Tuesday show. Good to see you. How you doing?
It is Tuesday. I'm going around thinking all day that it's Wednesday. I was like, Dynamite's coming. We're early. Dynamite's coming on in an hour. I'm so excited.
You're thrown off. The week's not going by that fast.
I am so thrown off. It is the full Tuesday show. I am happy to be back. And I'm glad we're talking about WWE because we were talking a little bit before we came on the air here about WWE. I'm having some moments. So we'll talk. We can talk about it.
We will talk about it.
All right.
We're here every Tuesday. Usually, we're here every Thursday. Usually, talking wrestling. We're part of the Family Podcast Network. We're happy to be here tonight. Thank you for everyone who's listening. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Join us on our Facebook page. Join us on our Twitter page at WCWF Pod, and we talk wrestling. We're going to be going regular kind of all summer. It's been kind of end of the year, busy, hectic. People got stuff going on, but Cheats and I are here tonight. We're going to talk about it. Before we get into it, let's get a quick collector's choice out of the way. Last year, we talked about it a lot. I mentioned it all the time. We got to attend a great event last year in Richmond, United Elite Wrestling, a promotion that was based out of Richmond last year. They have since kind of relocated to Jacksonville. Their founder, their owner, Chris Keith, Double K Chris Keith. We've kept up with him over the years. They're getting ready to put on their first Jacksonville show now that UEW has kind of moved their home base to Jacksonville. They're putting on UEW Reloaded on June 3rd. So WCWF, who got to cover a show in Richmond last year, super excited about it. They also put out some new merch. And the first message I sent when I saw that was to Chris Keith. Chris, how can I get your new merch? And I did. I bought their new shirt. United Elite Wrestling, founded 2019. Chris sent it right off to me. Had a great exchange with them.
That's awesome.
We love Chris. We have an open invite to go down there and catch up with him, catch up with them. Reloaded is June 3rd. Chris has a great card lined up for the fans down in Jacksonville on the 3rd. He's going to be on the card, as he is always. He's a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Woods is the goods. Josh Woods of the Varsity Club of AEW. He's going to be there competing for the UEW World title against a couple of competitors, one being Big Con, who was Connor of the Ascension back in WWE. He's going to be on the card that night. He'll also have Tessa Blanchard. Our friend Phil Brown from last year is going to be there. So a great card if you're in Jacksonville around June 3rd. Go check it out, 8200 Cypress Plaza. He is a great guy. Chris puts on a great promotion. So I'm happy to represent UEW. We're fans here.
Excited for Chris and what he's doing in Florida. My only small beef, is that he did tell us when he moved he was going to bring the promotion back to Richmond. And now, does Florida need another wrestling company? Really?
It needs a top tier wrestling company.
Florida has a lot of wrestling companies, but I know. I'm big shout out to Keith, everything that they're doing. I wonder if our main man, Mr. Ref Jason, is going to be down there to ref some of those events. I hope so.
I hope so too. We'll reach out to Jason and or Keith after their event. Maybe even have them on to talk about how the card was and how things are going in Florida.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Chris. Let's get into it tonight. All right. So you kind of led off by saying that I'm going to interpret your words and say nothing is particularly really ultra doing it for you right now in WWE. I share a few of those sentiments. They've got a lot going on. They've done their draft. They've done their brand split. Mm-hmm. I think there's some things they still got to sort of sort out. And I want to get caught up on sort of things that happened as up till last night on Raw. We've got they got a PLE coming up this Saturday afternoon, special start time of 1:00 out of Saudi Arabia. They're Night of Champions, and they're going to crown their new World Heavyweight Champion. Going into that, they're sort of touting it as 3 main events. Before we kind of get into like what maybe our concerns are about the product right now, what are you excited about going into this Saturday of those sort of main events and the product in general?
That's a good question, because what am I excited about going to Saudi Arabia? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot right now. And it's because I don't think, as much as we're saying that the Saudi show this go around is a little bit different, and it's not as much of a throwaway, like let's bring Goldberg versus The Undertaker,
Right.
or like the Greatest Royal Rumble type show, I do think it falls into a very predictable bill. And I don't necessarily know if it's actually built to extend storylines in WWE. And what I mean by that is outside of Roman and Solo going over to take on Sammy and Kevin.
Yep.
Is there a story that you don't think that is there a match on the Greatest Royal, like on that show coming up on Saturday, that you feel like you really don't know the result? Possibly Seth and AJ, possibly. But everything else is, I think, very heavily predictable. And so when I say that, I'm going to watch. I'm going to see how they do what they do. But at the same time, is there anything particularly on this card that really, really gets me going, gets me excited and turns the page? And my answer is, I think I'd be surprised if AJ wins. If AJ goes over Seth, AJ becomes the first champion, I'd be like, ooh, that's something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Let me reverse it and ask you, is there anything on the pay-per-view coming up on Saturday that really kind of, and also to me, it does feel a little bit like a, what's the AEW New Japan collab pay-per-view?
Forbidden Door.
It feels a little bit like, oh, this is going to be cool, but this is not the long-term future of the story development of the show.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I agree and disagree with you. So yeah, I think that some of the matches on this card, a couple of them are definitely means to ends, but I see a little bit less predictability maybe going to some of these matches, just because I think where some of these storylines are, they can, and like a lot of storylines are, you can kind of go either way at this juncture and make it work. So we just don't know sort of which direction they want to go in. For example, Brock and Cody, like this could be, if Brock were to continue to abuse Cody and say, maybe, you don't want to waste an opportunity to see Cody Rhodes get part of his redemption arc, especially what they did to him last night. Brock sort of damn near broke his arm last night, and the storyline sort of playing out that is Cody even going to be cleared because he doesn't want to get checked out because he's concerned the arm's broken. Triple H was out there last night concerned the arm's broken. He's obviously going to be there. I haven't heard anything suggesting that Cody's legit hurt, and that was to set something up for a different competitor for Brock. So is now the time for Cody to conquer the beast? If Cody was to take another bad L at the hands of Brock Lesnar, that would be a step.
Hold on, has he taken an official L? He's taken some beatings, but has he taken an official L to Brock Lesnar? He hasn't.
I guess he did beat him at the last PLE. Yeah. So let's see. We could see a significant step toward Cody's hard times storyline if it inevitably leads back to Roman at some point by getting squashed by Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia. I can see that happening because Brock is probably a huge draw over in Saudi Arabia, almost as much as anybody else is. But if Cody vanquishes Brock, where do each of them go from there?
Yeah,
the storyline's got to continue.
I don't think, in my mind, the way that this is setting up for me, this is not Cody vanquishes anything. I think this is Cody gets beat up again. This is the part of Rocky where Mr. T beats the shit out of Rocky. And the movie payoff is at a bigger event back in the United States at a pay-per-view long term. Again, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think this is where I am with this show. I think this is a like um this is one of those events, especially, and I tend to think about this with huge WWE international events anyway, where it's like these are some really cool stuff, but the payoffs aren't going to be at this, especially for a Cody Brock payoff. It's going to be at one of the big, Summer Slams or something of that nature. I don't know if that story goes this long, so it's interesting. But I don't anticipate Cody Rhodes getting out of Saudi Arabia, raising his hand, Brock on the ground, and we move on storyline. No, I think this is just, I think we're at the 25, 35-yard line of on the opposite side. We got to take this further. And have they really explained, and you will be better at this than me, have they really explained Brock's motivation here yet? Have they really told this story?
No. They've not told a story from Brock's angle. I mean, if this is vengeance from taking an L at WrestleMania, maybe so. Brock sometimes doesn't need to explain himself. He just goes out there and destroys things. And that's seemingly what he's doing now. He's back in this sort of heelish persona after being a face for a good part of the last year. And he's relishing in it, and he's destructive. And like Tom and I were saying last week, we're getting like the scary Brock Lesnar, who's unpredictable. If you're at ringside, you're in danger. So I'm excited about that. Predictability, yes, I think we're talking about an inevitable Seth Rollins title reign. Seth and AJ will vie for the new World Heavyweight Championship Saturday. We've talked about it, that the other title was on SmackDown. This clearly is sort of being set up to be a Raw title that gets defended weekly on television at live events. It's going to be regular on pay-per-view, as Roman may take the step back for the next few months as champion. So the fact that Seth's the Raw competitor in this, I think that's where they're going. There were some dirt sheet reports this week that, and I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in them, but for anyone who saw them, that is WWE a little bit concerned. Seth's not been at the live Raw the last couple of weeks. He's had these pre-take segments talking about the title match coming up Saturday because he's filming his appearance in the new Captain America movie. There have been some photos captured of him on set in the last week. So he's doing that. And I guess the story is about, if this is a turn that Seth's making toward maybe some more mainstream stuff, do they want to put the title on him, especially the way they're sort of advertising it being defended? I kind of think that's a whole lot of nothing. I don't think Seth's,
yeah, me too.
I don't think Seth's ready to make some big turn, become some part-time guy. So, is there probably a little bit of smoke there? Yeah, maybe. If I was Seth, sure, I'd want to take advantage of some of these opportunities that are happening outside wrestling. But I'm not sure that we reach the point where they're going to put a title on a SmackDown star and explain some move just because Seth's been filming.
Nah, I definitely think that Seth is wrestling first. I think that's where he needs to be. He is not in a position, I don't think, where he is big enough outside of WWE's world or the world of wrestling.
I'd say his wife's closer than he is.
I think his wife has been closer, much closer. And obviously, call a spade. I do believe in that sense, her taking time off to become a mother, which I'm sure she's really happy about, did slow some of that, I think, outside of the ring momentum, right? Because she had to go away from TV for quite a bit. She had to, default to this new era of Bianca, and now she's on a card with, Trish Stratus, which I just think that Seth would really benefit himself as best he could to get this title and work it to the best of his ability. And then maybe ultimately down the line, see what happens again if you can put him in a big time main event with someone like Roman. We'll see.
I hope they do this title justice. I think they will.
I think they have to. I really still don't understand where the segment is where Roman and Paul Heyman are like, you created another title just because I'm too good.
Mhm.
Like that's the I was waiting for a Paul Heyman to walk out and confront Triple H and say, what the hell is this? Like, Roman has both titles, and if they want one, they can come get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I know what they're doing. Obviously, you know what they're doing as well. It's just easier this way. It's cleaner this way.
Mm-hmm.
And they introduce a new title with value, right?
Yep.
But if I'm Paul Heyman, counselor to the tribal chief that has all the gold, the big gold in this company, and you try to introduce a third equivalent gold, I'm going to walk out and be like, guess what? Roman's going to take that one too.
Yeah, and the question that still has not been answered, we'll get that answer, I guess, the following week is, are they going to still refer to Roman's title being undisputed? Because after Saturday, it will officially, I guess, in some ways, be disputed. But, kind of like their decision with if they want to put the title on AJ and have to make this move to get AJ, I think to an extent, Triple H, and then this is going back to Bruce Pritchard, Vince McMahon. They're like, dude, this is wrestling. This is a show. We can make it work. If we have to write some crazy story, we'll do that. And and the people online who have podcasts and talk about it, they can wring their hands about the continuity of it. But the majority of the fans we care about, this is a show. We'll do whatever we want, and we can make it work.
If they put the title on AJ, does it lessen the value of the title?
In the immediate, yes, I think it would be. Because
it's Seth's title, right?
You'd have to completely explain how to get AJ onto Raw. You would not. It would take some luster off it, because especially if you're going to move a SmackDown star, then I think it raises that specter of Roman. Like why would you unintentionally sort of put that in people's heads? Mm-hmm. You got to take these extra steps. So yeah, it all signs point to Seth holding this title. He's the right person. If you're going to have someone represent,
I think so.
Raw right now, he'd be great. There are plenty of people who could do that title justice, and I hope in the next couple of years we'll see other people, hold that title. I don't want to see Seth hold it until WrestleMania, because that just becomes a whole nother title that is occupied by one person. But you don't want to have it rotate too much, which is a fine line that wrestling has, danced for years. The big WWE topic I want to kind of talk about, I wanted to talk about with you guys, you and TG, who's not with us tonight, but we miss him. TG, shout out. Is the tag team title, currently held by Sami and KO. Mm-hmm. They defeated the end of the Usos' historic streak at WrestleMania. There's a couple of ways that this could go. I want to kind of throw out an A, B, and C scenario, and see sort of how you feel. So, anyone who's watched the product knows that KO and Sami's career have been intertwined before WWE, well before WWE, and certainly throughout the bulk of their careers in WWE. Right now, they're together. They're as tight as they've ever been, and they're the tag team titles. There is always the appearance of tension between the two of them, that this whole thing could go south at any minute. It has in the past.
It's history has proven.
Right. And it has, I guess, most, if not every time, it's been KO who sort of is the heel. Yeah. That's the right move if you're going to win, if and when you break them up, because KO is as good as anyone out there right now. I think if we're seeing sort of the end of the Orton era, which we can even talk about too, because Orton's has not gotten good medical news. Orton's been sort of advised by some doctors, if you believe the reports, that he probably shouldn't get back in the ring. KO, I can see taking that sort of Randy Orton mantle for the next decade and being, sort of wrestler veteran emeritus for WWE, because he's that good. But, those two are inevitably going to go at it again. This is not going to be, they're not FTR. They're not the Usos, who are going to be lifetime partners.
Kevin Owens also is 39 years old. Him doing anything for the next decade might be.
That's true.
That's
very true.
Might be rough.
That's true. As anyone who's over 39 can definitely attest to that.
And it's in the way he does what he does to his body. Like every time he gets in the ring, he has to. So,
completely. So,
what's your question? What's the scenarios?
Okay, so they're facing Solo Sikoa, and
Yep.
Roman Reigns. They have teased this as not predictable. Now I can see, so here's scenario number one.
Yeah.
They go to Saudi Arabia. Solo and Roman, who are the heads of the table. Solo may even have as much of a promising career as Roman when it's all said and done, because they're booking him to look huge. Those two can take out Sami and Kevin, can win the titles, can hold the gold, and walk out of Saudi Arabia as your new tag team champions. What that would do, that could put the beginnings of another Sami and KO feud. Start that. I think it's a little early for it, but I could see it happening. That would also fit the dominance of the storyline, and it would complete a story that I think they're trying to tease, if not right, of Roman. When Roman wants to do something, the best thing he can do is do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
The Usos couldn't get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Solo are doing it to spite the Usos, and they walk away champions. That's, I think, unlikely, but entirely possible. Scenario number two.
Okay.
The Usos are not booked for Saudi Arabia. And it was even last night, I think it was Paul that was saying the Usos are going to be home watching in glee when it happens. Well, that could be a swerve.
Yeah.
The Usos could show up and inadvertently cost them, their family, the titles. KO and Sami walk away. If that happens, that could do a couple of things. But I think the main thing it would do would be, if you want to start the story of the bloodline kind of phase, it might be phase 3 by now, or phase 2 of the internal breakup, where Roman and Solo throw the Usos out of the bloodline. Those two and the four of them, we've seen, I think if you've been watching this the whole time, there's still a story to be told with Jay and Sami, and as much with Jay and Roman. There's becoming a story as much of Jimmy and Roman, but that story has to be told too. Do they pull the trigger on that? Because that could do a couple of things. That could keep Roman, Solo could do the book of the heavy lifting through the summer. Roman can come at SummerSlam, wouldn't have to put his world title on the line. He'd feud with the Usos. This would work whether Roman and Solo win or not, but this works better if they get costed the championship, and we get really a summer of battle of the bloodlines.
Okay, it's number 2.
That's number 2. Number 3, and here's one this is what more like my sort of fantasy booking, because I think this scenario solves lots of things.
Okay.
Sami and Solo, with or without, Solo and Roman, with or without the Usos' help, win the titles. They're the undisputed champions. At the event, or maybe on Raw or SmackDown the following week, but I think you do it at the event. Or maybe this is teased at SmackDown. Here's what you do. This brand hard split is, I think they're really trying to split this brand right now. There was a lot of talk that the split would go away, but they put the draft back in. They've explained how the world titles are going to seem to be exclusive of each brand. If you want to separate these titles again, which I'm not sure why you wouldn't do that. They're not going to pull the trigger on Roman's 2 titles. Clearly, they've made a 3rd title. Roman and Solo win. Roman proclaims himself, I'm the SmackDown champion. I'm not going on Raw. I'm done with Raw. In fact, Sami, KO, we don't even want your Raw tag team titles. We are the SmackDown champions. We are taking these SmackDown belts. And then you could do one of 2 things. Sami and KO could walk away with the Raw titles, which they could then continue to defend in storylines they've begun building up with the tag team division on Raw, Imperium, Judgment Day. Or they can say, they cannot take this approach with the Usos and say, we're the SmackDown champions. We're going to leave the Raw tag team titles for Jimmy and Jay to take from you, then the bloodline really holds all the gold without Roman holding all the gold. I probably didn't do a great job. I probably didn't do a great job.
Number 3 was a lot. You did good with number 1 and number 2. Number 3 is we're
number 3 is if you want to split the titles.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
Roman Solo refuse to accept the Raw tag team titles.
Yeah, you could have said that.
There you go.
All right.
Well, so
of all 3 scenarios,
what do you like?
Based off of what I've told you, my opinion of Night of Champions in this Saudi show, what does the absolute most but does nothing at the same time?
Does the absolute most? Oh, tell me, what do you got?
Number 2. The Usos show up. They screw something up. They cause Roman and Solo to lose.
Yep.
Sammy and Kevin keep the belts retained. And then you've got this continued friction between Solo, Roman, and the Usos themselves that just carries over to a bigger payoff. That's where I think we're going with this, but only because I don't think anything major is going to go down at this Saudi show outside of Seth Rollins being crowned. Also, you got to look at it. You and Tom are really better at this than I am, but I think it also does tell where this match is on the card. The way that it's being built, especially if you're looking at the card on some of the previews, it's being built as like the 3rd top match. Where
behind the title, behind Brock.
Yep. And so if that's the case, I don't think anything major comes out of this. And it's just very on brand that the Usos at this point in the story show up. They try to save the match and wind up ruining the match. That's where I am on. I'll be shocked if there's a title change.
If that happens, then let's talk about that World Tag Team title. Is it going to be split? Or are we just going to have this like what's our
Triple H comes out next week and introduces a new tag team title that says
a SmackDown tag team title to replace the unified
this is the
Raw
World Tag Team Championship, and it's going to be defended on Raw every week. I don't know.
Right.
Ultimately, again, because this could have been solved in the years and months during Roman's title reign to split the titles. We've talked about this all the time. We could have split the titles at WrestleMania and like had them defend one on one night and one on the other, lose one, win the other. You know what I mean? And they just haven't done it for Roman. I do think that Sammy and Kevin in the Usos are both, now that the story isn't the bloodline has all the gold, there should be a way to get those titles off of like one side of the titles off of the tag champs.
Yeah, and I thought just Roman acting, Roman being dominant, saying, "I'm making this decision. We don't even want that," was a way out of there. And maybe they won't do it, but if not now, when?
I'll be surprised if they do it, only because he's a hoarder. He hoards belts. If he gets a belt, I don't think he's going to throw it in the trash can. I don't think he's going to defend it. But I think it adds to the story of I got everything. That's why I'm still shocked that no one's run out and been like, what? New title? Important? And you're not going to get like the greatest champion of our generation an opportunity to win it? Like, it already makes it the B title.
It kind of does. Yeah. Are we going to see, are they going to create some new title for Roman at some point? I mean, is he just going to walk around with 2 belts? Are Kevin and Sammy going to get new titles? Like, it's been a long time since they refreshed some of those. And
I don't see how they can at this point.
Probably not.
Because it's just been too long.
Roman's going to get some milestone day. I mean, he's almost at 1,000. He's almost at 1,000.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's on, I would love to see him commemorated with some new title belt at some record,
And let's be clear, it works. It works for Roman. Roman coming out with the 2 belts, holding it up, getting the mic from Heyman. It all works. And that part of the story to me hasn't stopped working. Roman's still very, very, very good when he's there and when he's active. And it's great for me. I enjoy it. I hope they don't do that. I do hope they figure out a way to split the tag belts. But
so that would mean you predict Saturday that Solo would be taking the pin on Saturday. Yeah, Roman's not.
Roman may not going on the honestly, if the Usos screw it up to the point where Roman takes the pin, that could be an interesting twist. because they could come back on Monday or Friday and be like, you took a pin. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That could be something. I'm not ruling out that shenanigans doesn't ensue or something like Roman taking a pin, because it'll be like Roman's first pin since, you know what I mean?
Right.
But there's going to be something that advances the story. But in my mind, something that does the most while doing nothing in regards to big transitions, because I do think the story leads to the internal breakup of the bloodline, and ultimately Jimmy and Jay, Roman and Solo, they figure that out.
Yeah. I think so. Saudi, for their $50 million, they're getting the crowning of the world champion, but they're not going to be quite getting, a big next step in the number one storyline.
I don't think so.
That'll work for me. Saturday at 1:00. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I guess that's
Yep.
their and they're probably, most of the guys are probably on their way to Saudi Arabia right now. Is SmackDown taped this Friday? Do you know? Are they doing it live?
I don't know how they're doing SmackDown. That's a great question, because I don't know if they're doing SmackDown in a way where it's just like they're using folks that aren't going over, or are they doing it in a way where it's like they're not doing SmackDown from Saudi Arabia. So I don't know.
You excited to see Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus in full body suits in Saudi Arabia?
I am not. I'm not excited for this match or build up at all.
Yeah, I don't know where this lost me, but it's
lost me completely.
It's not really.
I'm more excited to see the future of Selena Vega than I am Becky Lynch right now, and I don't know why.
You excited for Asuka and Bianca Belair? I think there's a possibility that title changes on Saturday.
I don't think the title will change, but I do think that it's going to be a better match than Becky and Trish. Again,
I love Bianca as champion. I think she has possibly the brightest future outside of Rhea Ripley of anyone in WWE.
Oh, that's a big move. Hold on, why is that? You think Rhea Ripley has a bigger future than Bianca Belair?
I think in WWE she does.
Who's a bigger star?
Right now in WWE,
this isn't even a thought. What are you doing?
Rhea Ripley, based on her association on wrestling TV, TV.
No.
Based on her association with the hottest heel in wrestling, I'd say that's why.
No. I love this story. It's a great story, but I do think that Bianca Belair is a bigger star in an inside and outside of wrestling right now than Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley has the title now, right? So she's got the gold. She is associated with the bloodline.
Judgment Day,
excuse me. But I right this second, I think Bianca Belair. Now the question I would wonder is, where are we 12 months from now? Where are we 24 months from now? I still feel very hard pressed that Bianca Belair would not be still a megastar, like a big time megastar. So I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But I like it. I like the fact that we disagree on this. This is great.
One thing I'd say is, I'm really not disputing the magnitude of Bianca's height right now. If you can, I think there's the possibility now of really damaging the Asuka character if you have this character change. You can't get a win.
Yeah, I don't think they care about Asuka.
Wow.
I don't.
I think they should. I think they should care about Asuka.
I care about Asuka. I don't think the corporate brass cares enough about Asuka at this point. I don't think they care enough to put the belt on her and have her go over Bianca.
She's an exciting TV foe, but not someone who they're going to have hold the title over. Someone like she's
Shinsuke Nakamura type. Like, he's really good. He gets some good wins on TV, but when the big time stuff comes outside of, a couple Shinsuke Intercontinental Champion runs, he's going to lose to Gunther. He's going to lose to Theory. He's going to lose to, the big time waves at the time. That's where I think Asuka's such a good worker and such a professional that I think she lands in this spot, even with the character change.
Well, good for Bianca, because I think Bianca deserves everything she gets. She's as hard a worker as you have in that company, and she represents the title really, really well.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad to see that her work, right, up until this point, and work that in many ways carried a lot of the women's division,
mhm.
is really starting to pay off in a sense where it's like, unlike what we saw with Drew, where I felt like Drew McIntyre carried the company for a long time, and then like when fans came back and everybody like he didn't get the payoff that he needed because Roman's sitting there, right?
Mhm.
But I and there's always this thing in the back of my mind that they're still got the Montez Bianca reality show that I think they're going to put a lot of, WWE emphasis outside of what's happening in the ring on there. So we'll see. I don't know if that show's going to be, a big hit per se, but
Mhm.
I do think that they keep the title on her while they're promoting this Ms. and Mrs. type reality show on Hulu.
Yeah, I would go that. Probably the least unpredictable outcome from Saturday is going to be Mustafa Ali attempting to capture the Intercontinental Championship against Gunther. Gunther's so hot right now. He's so big. There's definitely no question as to how that's going to end. The only thing I'd say is I think they missed an opportunity last night when Sammy and Kevin were choosing a third competitor against Imperium. I would have liked to have seen them pick Ali as their competitor,
Riddle.
as opposed to Riddle. They're trying. I mean, they're still trying to keep Riddle in the fold, make sure keep him relevant. I don't think he's important enough myself, but I see why they want to keep him wedged in some main event title scene.
Give me your assessment of the Riddle comeback. So since Riddle has returned, what do you think? Do you think they're using him well? Do you think they're like Riddle may not be your guy, but what do you think about the Riddle return so far?
Oh, I mean, I think he's fortunate he's getting this sort of opportunity. I think he's entertaining. I get why crowds like him. The character is sort of RVD reminiscent, and RVD is a immensely popular talent. There's nothing about Riddle that screams world champion.
For the record, though, RVD was also an immensely talented wrestler. I think way more than Riddle.
Yeah, Riddle can, it doesn't matter to me that Riddle could legit hurt 2/3 of the locker room because I don't care.
Yeah.
That's great. He is entertaining for a segment of somewhat sophomoric wrestling fans, but wrestling is sophomoric for the most part.
He's actually more athletic than I tend to give him credit for. When I see him in the ring and he'll do some of the like backflip somersault thing, I'm like, oh snap. The interesting thing about Riddle though, and I love the RVD mentions and kind of comparisons. I still remember the first couple of times I saw RVD really go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, I've never seen anything like this. Like it was like breathtaking athleticism.
Agreed.
And that's where it's like I can see like cool athleticism and doing some good things, but I see why we're doing the comparison, but RVD, not Riddle may be a better talker, honestly. But RVD, just when he got in the ring, it was just like sick stuff. Like young AJ Styles, sick stuff. Yeah. RVD was sick stuff.
Right. He was the first wrestler I really ever saw who almost like enveloped parts of parkour into his.
It's definitely some like lucha. Like when we see some of the guys in AEW doing some of the real like lucha rope stuff, like RVD could do that stuff if it was like available to him at the time,
Yeah, his move was called the Van Daminator when he goes coast to coast into the trash can.
Yeah.
The first time I saw that move, I had the reaction like the first time I ever saw like the Frankensteiner. I saw that incredible move and didn't think that was possible, especially a guy like Scott Steiner doing it. But like that kind of move popped me, and Steiner going Van Dam doing some of the early stuff he did.
Or if you will, Dominic Mysterio going across the ring with his frog splash last night.
Dominic, like, I wish this is where I love getting TG's
Yeah.
his take on this. Like 14 months ago, if you had told us that the person getting the loudest crowd reaction, bigger, positive or negative,
Yep.
weekly, drowning out any attempt for him to talk, which is now a thing too.
Yep.
Dom, and I've started to early on. You'd say, well, this is all a good rub he's getting from his dad, or is the good rub he's getting being with Finn Balor, or getting paired with Rhea Ripley. He's doing the bulk of this on his own.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I take it back. He plays into it well. This is not a Dominic Mysterio. This phenomenon, I don't think, is a Dominic Mysterio creation as much as it's he feel like he's good. He's good at it. He feels the role really well. He actually did get some really good creative. He got a partner with Rhea that helped him as well. He got a foil in his big time Hall of Fame face dad and family. Like everything just played right for this. And the fact that he is now starting to show skills like he really can wrestle better than people think actually adds to like the awesomeness of this story. But I think he gets the same reaction even if he couldn't wrestle a lick, because half of the boos started. I don't know if they are there now, but half of the boos started with the understanding that you are not supposed to be here. What the hell are you doing here? You do not belong here. And you're obviously your dad has got you in the company, and it was this just kind of spoiled brat nepotism thing that they did a really good job in WWE to not be overt with it, but everybody knew, even when they were coming out as faces dressed together in American and Mexican, everybody was booing Dom anyway because they hated Dom. And then they leaned into it, and then Prison Dom, chef kiss, great stuff.
Yeah, that's the best move they could have made was do that prison angle. Yeah, absolutely, culminating with that amazing.
Because again, nobody believes him. Like you know what I mean? It's just it's the greatest silver spoon spoiled brat. Like you don't belong here. You're not that great, and it's like now he is actually proving. But I don't know. I just think that creative, that storyline, and he fills the role really well. But I think that guy, maybe not this level of nuclear heat because he is filling the role so well. But I think this guy gets like, I hate you, spoiled brat heat, no matter what the storyline is.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk, quick here just about injuries.
Yep.
Injuries have always been part of the business. They seem to come up at the worst of times sometimes. And the injury bug has bit wrestling again, kind of in the last week and a half, especially as it comes to the women talent. We can start with, maybe the biggest injury that's going on wrestling right now, and it's not even WWE related. It's ancillarily WWE related. Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks, one of the biggest women talent out there right now, was competing in a title match for the New Japan Pure something. There was a New Japan tournament out in Long Beach this past weekend, facing our girl Willow Nightingale, who we love, in the finals. And it appears as though Mercedes hurt her ankle, which may have led to them calling an audible for the finish. But either way, Willow Nightingale, your New Japan Women's Pure champion, huge for her. We're very excited to hear. We really like Willow Nightingale on the show. We watched her for years, but bummer that another just like top female is going to be out for a while. And so that's big. Mercedes Moné, who's a top name, going down with an ankle injury. That's not good. Closer to home, though, an injury forced the women tag team champions to vacate their titles. Liv Morgan, have you seen the exact injury? I believe it was
not.
I believe I saw it was her rotator cuff.
Okay.
That they said is she's gonna be out for, they're using that phrase, significant period of time.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer, man. Yep. They weren't really handling that. When I say they, I mean the WWE. Right. Wasn't really handling the women's tag team title great. They haven't handled it great since Sasha and Trinity left them on Bruce Pritchard's desk, a
Right.
year and a half ago.
I actually agree with that. Now that you looking back, I agree with that statement 100%.
Yeah, they haven't done much with it. They haven't done justice to it. They were getting some stability with Liv and Raquel. They want to make Raquel a star so bad. I like Raquel a lot. I hope she will continue to connect with fans. This title, it seemed like this was headed to go around the waist of Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. Those two kind of disappeared after WrestleMania, and I was wondering what they were going to do. They have returned right before Liv's injury. It seems like they were setting themselves up to be the main challengers for that title. Now that this title has been vacated due to Liv's injury, Raquel has a new partner, Shotzi.
I like Shotzi. I do like Shotzi.
I like Shotzi too. She had a great suicide dive last night. She's another one of these women who, and I respect any wrestler who you can tell cares about does not care about their bodies. It seems they take tremendous care about them, but Shotzi's the first one who will go through ropes, go over, go out, put her body on the line for it. And you always got to respect that. Shotzi's got a lot of talent. She's been there for a while. I like that she's getting some, top level run right now.
Can you guess? Let's take a guess. Let's take a guess on a couple of things really quick.
Okay. The other injury I want to mention real quick is Dakota Kai also. And
I'll add her to this guess. Go ahead.
ACL injury, Damage Control is going to be a Dakota Kai, a Io Sky Bailey outfit kind of going forward because ACLs take a long time to heal. Dakota's had injury problems before.
Yeah, she's injury prone at this point.
This is going to derail her career for a good long while, if not permanently. So, three prominent females right now in the business dealing with injuries, and I'm sure there's more if we sat and thought about it. But that's significant when you don't have Charlotte Flair around full time. They do have a deep talent roster of women, but seemingly a lot of them have trouble getting over, or they have a lot of trouble putting those women over. So, shout out to injured women. What's your question, Mark?
I got a couple, just a little game that we'll play just a little bit. And while you're saying all of that, I will say, while I agree with you 100%. That I don't think the WWE's handled the tag division well since Trinity and at the time Sasha Banks left. I do think they handled Liv really well. Liv was in some real main events, some bangers, got the title put on her waist. And I do think that this just sucks for Liv because Liv was really starting to be that woman almost. I'd be interested to see, how you and TG would compare Liv to Alexa Bliss, right? Like right now, she was kind of like the Alexa Bliss replacement, right? But anyway, with that said, let's play a game, and we'll see about because I did love the question about future, right? Between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. Let's talk future in a sense. How old do you think Shotzi Blackheart is?
I think Shotzi is 34 years old.
Close, very good. Shotzi is 31.
Okay.
Let's go with Liv. Where do you think Liv is?
Liv's like 29.
Liv is 28. So
Okay.
you did really good there. You've done really good on both of these.
Mm-hmm.
Dakota Kai.
Oh, I don't know for sure this, but I'm aware that she is older than one would think. I think Dakota Kai is like 36, 37.
You are correct again.
Yeah.
She's 35 years old.
35? Okay.
Yes. But that's still, again, much older than people I think would think.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add, the last one was Raquel Rodriguez.
Raquel's probably
Gonzalez.
She's probably 30. She's probably 31, 32.
Very good. She's 30.
Let me say for the record that I am not some stalker who.
Yeah, I was going to say this is kind of getting weird. How good
I know. It did sound a little weird.
She's 32.
I don't know their measurements. I don't know anything else about them.
But I say all that because it's interesting to me when we're talking about these futures.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dakota Kai, if that's a significant injury at 35 years old, she might be a rat. Like she might be a rat.
Yeah.
Liv at 28 is the youngest of that group we just talked about. And
yeah.
And Alexa Bliss is 31, I think.
Yeah. Alexa's 31. I mean,
It's just an interesting, so of that group, who do you mark as somebody like Shotzi? I would say is the brightest future, possibly.
I think the WWE machine would love to have Raquel become a bigger star than she currently is.
And my girl, Io Sky, it's impossible. You want to guess? It's impossible.
Io Sky
is the sky.
Io Sky. I'm gonna say, I mean, she could be 34 or 20 or 25. I'm gonna say Io is 29.
Io is 33.
33. Ooh, that's
so Io at 33, Dakota at 35, Liv at 28, Shotzi at 31, Raquel is right in there at 32. The elder statesman of this group is one we said was the most talented at Asuka. Asuka's 41.
Asuka's 41. Okay, since you got the Google machine up and
I'm just fascinated by because we know how young Rhea is. Rhea is super young.
Rhea is like 27.
Yeah, she's that's older than I thought. I thought
maybe,
she was younger than that.
I don't think so. Let's check the record. How old is Rhea Ripley? I want to say she's 27.
Hold on.
Shayna's 40. Ronda's 40. Nikki Cross is in her 30s.
Rhea Ripley's 26 years old.
26. I mean, and Bianca is 20. Bianca's 30.
34.
That's why Rhea has a higher upside than Bianca.
We'll see.
8 years.
We'll see.
I want them, I think Rhea, though, is definitely more limited right now, probably more limited to the combat world, wrestling world than the overall Hollywood. Bianca could be in a movie before Rhea is right now. Rhea is not Hollywood ready to start doing things outside.
You know what, though? We talk about this all the time, and this is not a knock on the Judgment Day because I do think that her aesthetic in the Judgment Day is absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Rhea Ripley, if she did a couple of quote unquote, I guess, popular culture cosmetic twist outside of the kind of full Judgment Day look, drop dead gorgeous. Dead gorgeous. So it's one of those things where I do think if she's doing movies or something like that, she could have a whole lot of different looks that I think, you do just different things with a haircut and it's just a whole. I think Bianca has that too. I think they both have like major box office type appeal.
Very marketable talent.
Very marketable talent. I'll be interested to see if any of them kind of take that path, but we'll see.
Well, for now, they're both champions of their divisions.
They're knee deep in wrestling. They are focused.
Yeah. And when you see two of the brightest stars right now doing their own thing, you inevitably see the beginnings of a dance around and towards one another. And I think, Rhea and Bianca, Rhea and Charlotte have run it back a few times, but Rhea and Becky is on the horizon. Bianca and maybe Bayley one day. Bayley's in her 30s. Bayley's in her mid 30s too.
And again, I say this all the time, and I just don't think Bayley has returned back to like 100% form and conditioning in the ring since she came back from the injury.
Agreed.
She just doesn't look to me as athletic as the Bayley that happened before the injury.
How old's Willow Nightingale? I think Willow Nightingale might.
I think she's a little bit older.
You think she's older? Okay, I would have thought she might be a little bit younger, but
she might be. Hold on, I don't know.
I would have said 25 for Willow Nightingale. I could be
29.
29. Okay, but that's age is just a number. In
wrestling, you go like I said. Asuka's 41. She's really doing great. I mean, I think you've got plenty of years of this group. Who would be a big splash in the other company? Like, I mean, all of them would be, but like Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley aren't likely to go. Like,
No.
who's somebody that goes, makes a Trinity Fatu type per show up?
Or just say like
somewhere else?
what Saraya did.
Who's the big get?
Well, I think before she goes mainstream, and since they're not, I don't think, doing her justice, I think WWE would love to get Jade Cargill in the picture. Of course,
Go the other way.
Why wouldn't you? But go the other way. Go in the other way.
Makes the Saraya type splash.
Oh my gosh!
If you're Tony Khan and you can pick off somebody that we think is gettable, who do you pick off that you think is gettable?
Yeah, just Rhea just doesn't seem gettable.
Yeah, Bianca and Rhea, they're not gettable. They're in the top.
No, and someone like Raquel. Yeah, it would have been Liv before her injury, I think.
Okay,
could have been Liv before injury. Liv, someone who I think could be, just because of name recognition, could draw a lot of eyes, even more so than maybe like. And it all depends on when you would pull that trigger. Like when Ruby Soho came back, Ruby never set the world on fire in WWE at all.
No.
But she was in a somewhat name recognizable group, the Riot Squad,
right.
And she had a look that made her memorable. And when she debuted, it was huge because there was a big sentiment that she had been sort of done dirty by WWE. So it all depends on how someone's exit goes from WWE. If they get a lot of support on their side, then the wrestling world clamors for them to go to the other company.
Right.
And Tony loves collecting toys. In our final few minutes,
okay,
I want to hear.
I will say one though.
Yeah, please. Well, I want to know what's on your mind in these closing moments about. You open the show talking about how nothing is really grasping you. I want to know something that you'd like to see because it would grasp you and hold your attention in. And open topic for you too.
It's a good question. I will say this. Bayley. I don't know if she's a get, but if Bayley pulled like a Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley type thing, her best friend's no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
If her, she's not winning any big matches, she's not really in the title picture per se. If Bayley decided to let her contract expire and TK opened the floodgates to bring back a Bayley over on the other net, over on AEW, that would be monumental and not necessarily implausible. Not necessarily.
There was a time when Bayley felt like she could have been a lifer, but then when you go off TV for over a year, that can make you reevaluate things. Oh, I would agree. Yeah, if I was TK and had an opportunity to get Bayley because of the interesting things you could do with New Japan and eventually, Bayley and Mercedes not in WWE would be
huge.
Interesting.
All right, let's answer your question though, and I'm not copping out with this answer.
Okay,
but wrestling, as you know, and wrestling fandom, and as we follow companies and wrestling and so forth, there are peaks and valleys of when the product is compelling to an individual, right?
Yeah. Right.
We came in and kind of had the start of this podcast and the show and all of that in the midst and the rise of this historic Roman Reigns run. It could not last forever. There's got to be something that turned the page, cooled it off, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what compelled all of us was when we thought those things were going to happen, they figured out a way to introduce Solo, elevate Sami Uso. Like they figured out ways to just keep us gripped and locked in.
Yeah.
And that was the magic of this bloodline run with obviously Roman Reigns at the top. Post WrestleMania, in my mind, they haven't, like, it might have been impossible, but it's the top thing on the show, and they hadn't really elevated another level to this story, in my opinion. So what we did get is we got the draft, right? We got the brain split. We got some we got a new title. We've got Cody and got some things that it just seemed to me an unsustainable arc. And now we're kind of coming back down to reality because of kind of what's happening. Roman's not necessarily working as much. There's just a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because we're just coming off of this like phenomenal wave, right? And it's technically still going on.
Yep.
But I don't know what you can do to elevate, ratchet up this kind of crescendo, to add another level, especially if you're not bringing in like a Trinity Fatu as a member of the Bloodline, as married to the Uso. Like, we know that ship has sailed. She's in Impact Wrestling, right?
Yep.
She's signed. So that might have been one of the pieces that's like, oh, you brought in Solo. You know what I mean? Now you bring in Trinity. You have a woman in the Bloodline, like, that could collect some, like, I don't know what would be the magic bullet to rope us all in. I do strongly believe more Roman the better.
Yeah.
Because he's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
More Paul Heyman the better.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I do not believe neither Sammy or Kevin are like worthy main event SummerSlam problems. Like, I don't. So there's this kind of, you got this champion out there that's bigger than all the champions. And I don't know if he, at this point, has a chief rival. He's been through Brock. He's been through Sammy. He's been through Drew. He's been through Kevin. I don't know who you introduce to be like, there's this level of like excitement and tension here. And it could be ultimately Jay and Jimmy. But it's like, I get it. But so there are things that I think the WWE is doing well in regards to their product. But I just think that we're in a place where you just couldn't maintain that momentum of the last, 24 months. And when you're building up these, just like we talked about this, like historically great storytelling with the Bloodline. Like, we were talking a couple episodes ago about them trying to win like Emmy Awards and like, like really great, compelling stuff. And I don't think we're there yet. And it also coincides, I do think, with a little bit of lack of creativity on the AEW side as well. So I think when I say that, like, the wrestling shows I'm watching are not, they may be kind of in a slow build process of what's to come. But right now, both shows aren't like, actually, I take that, but AEW's gotten really good last couple of weeks in regards to the product they're putting on Dynamite.
Yeah.
As they lead up to Collision, they do the Wembley show. But it's still not like, it's not where we were, say, 18 months ago, maybe 17 months ago.
I feel you. When I think about Roman's and the Bloodline arc, you said it. He's gone through the list of everyone. There are three notable names that aren't on that list, and that is Jay, Jimmy, and Solo.
Well, he went through.
He went through Jay.
One of them is on that list.
Early on. Yeah. That story obviously has yet to be.
It's really how it started.
That chapter has yet to be fully written, though.
Fully closed
because Jay did come fully back into the fold. But
but that's how it started.
Yes, this Bloodline storyline, since they didn't pull the trigger on Sammy, they didn't pull the trigger yet on Cody. The only thing really left is for the Bloodline just to consume itself, and it could start this weekend with an unforced error by the Usos that causes further deception in the ranks. There was also a moment where Roman appeared intimidated by Solo on SmackDown for a hot second. Roman began storming out of the ring, bumped into Solo, and almost looked like he backed away from his cousin just a second. Mm-hmm. So, that is something that you could completely see down the line when Solo finally has enough of Roman's abuse, after they've vanquished their cousins or however they're going to do that. And Solo is the kind of person there had been building up to potentially be a legit challenger to Roman.
I agree.
So
That really could be ultimately the move. It really could be. It may bypass the cousins altogether, and it's a Solo with Jimmy and Jay, the brothers, in the corner against Roman and Paul. Very, very likely scenario.
Right. We will continue to follow that. I hope everyone enjoys the PLE Saturday afternoon special 1:00 start time. And hopefully this week we're going to get another show under our belts. We've got TG is going to be available potentially later in the week. Our favorite heel and heels Megan could be available later in the week. So, and we're going to try to get on a more of a Tuesday, Thursday sort of regular event. But sometimes life gets in the way, the end of the school year, everything like that. Cheats on our way out. Plug your Black Baseball mixtape podcast.
Oh yeah, no, it's if anybody's interested in kind of contemporary baseball coverage and the intersection of baseball and Black culture, check out the Black Baseball mixtape. It is the fastest growing Black Baseball podcast in all the nation.
That is huge. That as well as this show is on the Family Podcast Network. We are proud members of that. So thank you guys. Cheats, always a pleasure sitting with you talking wrestling.
A lot of fun.
We'll be back here later this week, next week, talking all sports. On Thursdays, we count it out, but not on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, we tap out. That's it for us. We'll see you next week. Peace.